Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of Just Parlays. I'm Jim Williams, along with my buddy and partner in crime, the parlay expert, Chris King. Christopher, how are you, my friend?
Good. I mean, we saw some weird games yesterday.
Yeah,
Nice to see the Rays bullpen couldn't hold the lead for Shane McClanahan.
right.
We saw Carlos Rodon pitch badly and then kick a bat and hit one of his own teammates in the face. What else did we see? We saw the Astros lose again to Oakland. What is going on with Major League Baseball this week where all these doormat teams think all of a sudden that they're supposedly in a pennant race or something, so they want to win games?
Well, I noticed that you avoided the juggernaut of the Washington Nationals taking yet another game from the Dodgers.
Well, there was that too. I mean, they beat Gonsolin. Then yesterday, I mean, give credit where credit's due. The pitching was good to start, and then I don't know why the Dodgers went with Garrett Clevenger in the eighth inning and let him give up 6 runs and just left him out there. I mean, do you not have any other guys in the bullpen?
I would think they would, but that's just me. I have no idea why they would do that, but hey, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. If they're going to give you that opportunity, take it.
I mean, what was Dave Roberts thinking? Was he even paying attention to the game?
I don't know. Maybe he was watching the Angels. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, they won a game yesterday too. A real exciting matchup, 6-0 over the Royals. Of course,
right.
We've talked about how Kansas City is bad. They looked even worse yesterday. I thought they would have played better than they did. But I mean, you look at that eighth inning, and or it wasn't even. It was the ninth where things really got out of control
Right.
because but still, why do you leave a guy in that long? Walk, single, a sacrifice is the only out you get. Then you hit a guy, then you give him a sacrifice fly, then you give up a 2-run double, and then you take him out after the game went from 4-3 to 7-3. I mean, by then it's you're closing the barn door after the animals got out.
Right. Yeah. It's way too late at that point. But that's what happens in this time of the year, right? We're in August and July, and we're getting to that point where the reason they call it the dog days is because things like this happen. And
True.
Your only hope, if you're a contender or for that matter somebody challenging, is that you don't get people hurt. And do your best to stay away from injury, because this stretch run is going to come pretty quick, and we are 1 week, and well, actually less than 1 week away from the very important trade deadline, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But first, let's get out here and talk about our buddies at BetMGM. They have a great deal for first-time users of the app or website. Get a risk-free bet of up to $1,000. All the information is in the show box below. Check your age limits and always bet responsibly. But that's a good deal. We love our friends at BetMGM, and by all means, their app is easy to use. The website's easy to use, guys. Take advantage of this $1,000, risk-free bet that BetMGM is going to give you. And as we said before, check in the ages in the state where you live, and also always bet responsibly. Chris, we were talking in our pre-show that this morning, some sources I spoke to with the Nationals specifically said that they've made 7 offers to Juan Soto's camp. The one offer that was reported by Kenny Rosenthal of The Athletic and of Major League Baseball Network was true. It was a 15-year, $440 million contract, which would be one of the highest in baseball history. But Scott Boras does not count here, so you begin the process of bidding against yourself. We go all the way back to Alex Rodriguez when he signed from the Mariners to the Texas Rangers. The Rangers paid
$252 for 10 years. I was in Seattle at the time, so
right.
As all over the Seattle Times and the Post-Intelligence are out there.
Yeah, and the number 2 later we came to find out that the number 2 bidder in that race was the New York Mets at $157 million. So you can see why Scott doesn't bid against himself. Now, That can come back to burn you, but it seldom burns Scott. It does have ramifications, but Soto will definitely. My guess is that Soto will be on the block, and somehow, some way, he will be traded sometime between this coming weekend and and Wednesday or Tuesday.
So you're saying your guess is that he'll be gone before the deadline?
Well, my guess is it's going to take a lot to get him. But if you're thinking maybe anywhere from 10 to 15 teams are in on this, then why would you not make your best bet and try to jump everybody else and say, look, here's this? Because then if you're Mike Rizzo, the GM and president of the of baseball operations, if you're Rizzo, you've got your best offer in hand. And you can look at it and you say, okay, if I'm going to get beat, if you're going to beat this offer, I need to see it now. And one of the things we talked about earlier, and I think it's very important, and we'll get to our games here, which are the most important part, but in the Soto sweepstakes, don't be surprised if it's somebody who is not going to sign him for long term. Because remember, he's not out of this until 2024. So you're going to have, counting this season, you're going to have him controlled for this season, next season, and then he will be a free agent the following season. So let's say you have him this year. He takes you and helps you get into the playoffs or maybe even a World Series. You can flip him next year. Okay. So that
you could even flip him in 2024.
You could. And so, that leaves teams like, teams that are crushed on salary issues, or usually traditionally, not spending teams like the Rays, the Minnesota Twins, the Seattle Mariners. Teams like that could very well jump in and say, you know what, I'm going to go everything and go all in. But it's going to cost them at least 4 to 5 players. And in one case, although it's not this, there's a lot of people saying, well, maybe we can get him for 3 good people and then take on Corbin's contract. I don't think that Mike does that. I think that makes no sense. It's give me your 5 best players and I'll eat Corbin's contract. I don't care about that. I care about building a team.
Ryan asked, why is Soto confident he can get more money than Washington is offering when he's only hitting 250? And as of today, he's going into today, it's 245.
Ryan, it's a very good question, and we don't know. Okay. Let's go back real quick and see that Bryce Harper and guys like Anthony Rendon, 2 former Nationals, another former, a former Oriole, Manny Machado. I mean, these guys were supposed to, be the next wave. And look, I love Bryce. I mean, as a person, as a player, but how many years is it going to be before Bryce brings a World Series to Philadelphia? And Manny Machado, who is a phenomenal baseball player, isn't even the best baseball player on his own team. So, and Rendon is in the land of Mike Trout and Ohtani. So making $245 million. And since 2019, when he played in the World Series, he hasn't played for 50 games. So at the end of the day, these long-term contracts can come back to bite you. And so your point as to what, will run Soto, put that 5 in front, which is where Scott Boras seems to think that's where he needs to be. I don't know. But the Nationals are not going to give it to him. So if the Nationals aren't going to give it to him, let's see what kind of bounty they can get back. But we'll see.
And it's interesting that you were talking about Rizzo not taking or dealing off a bad contract, because he had an interview on 106.7 with the Sports Junkies, and said that he will not water down his return for any player, Soto or otherwise, by insisting that a trade partner take on an undesirable contract. Talking about that $59 million that Corbin's owed. And they also apparently one of the other names bounced around is Strasburg. but he's got a full no trade clause. So, A, would anybody take him on given his injury issues to begin with? And B, would you try to take him on with the amount of money he's owed?
Well,
Because
no.
I'm pretty sure he's got a pretty hefty contract of his own, doesn't he?
Well, he got the 275 that Rendon got, but in
Right.
fairness on that deal, he had $100 million that he stepped away from. Okay, so that deal that says it's 275 is really 175. So because there was 100 million in the deal to begin with, so he got $175 million bonus, which God love him, but that's just the way it works. If you're going to take a once in a generation, which everybody seems to think that's what Juan Soto is, player, and you throw a contract thing in there, then you're getting 2 players or 3 players instead of 5 players, because that's that just bad contracts. Teams will, a Yankees or an organization that has money that they don't care, they'll throw it out there and say, look, I'll take Corbin's contract, nobody's taking Strasburg's contract. First of all, he's not pitching, and second of all, they're not taking a contract, so forget that.
How long till Josh Bell gets dealt?
Josh Bell will probably also go. I don't know what deadline, whether he gets dealt by the deadline. That's certainly not look, Josh is a good ball player, don't get me wrong, but he's not going to make he's not going to bring back the return that Soto's going to bring back. So that's.
But do they try to deal him to try and get him off the table to focus more on Soto's trade market?
I think you have to look, if you're a general manager, you wait for who's a different. You're talking about different teams, right? Let's say a Rays or somebody who needs a bat goes for Josh Bell. It's likely that the person going for the Josh Bell has no interest in Soto. I mean, they have interest in him, but they don't have what it takes to get him. Right. So they're 2 separate people going in 2 separate ways. And you have to look at it that way. What you could say is, all right, if I get an outfielder for Josh Bell, who's a quality prospect, right? Maybe then I can get a pitcher that takes, in that 5-person deal that I want for Juan Soto, maybe I can get a pitcher, maybe I can get a catcher, maybe there's a certain position that I don't need anymore because Josh Bell's trade got me that guy. Okay.
Right.
So you can look at it that way, but I don't think it really affects, who does what and how quickly they get to it. I think the most important thing in that case really boils down to, guys, which guy goes first. Okay, if Juan brings me back this bounty, then I still have needs in, maybe it's a pitcher, maybe it's whatever. And Josh Bell will then, that'll dictate, okay, then I need this kind of guy for Josh Bell. That's all it really does. Is it moves the players on the chessboard, but it doesn't change the game.
And one other thing, has anybody heard anything about Trevor Bauer's case? He's suspended supposedly through 2024. Has he filed an appeal? Is it going to get looked at? Is he going to get paid for doing nothing? Because by the time they get around to actually putting him where he's actually allowed to play again, he'll be a free agent.
He'll be too old to play. My guess is at this point, I haven't heard anything about an appeal. And although that's kind of a players association automatic thing, so that's probably in the process. That's probably why we haven't heard anything about it. But my guess is that that Trevor Bauer is not going to see a mound for another year.
Ridiculous.
That's just a guess. And he does get paid at this point.
It's a
prorated payment, but yeah, he gets paid.
You would think that he would they'd be able to do something about this situation. I mean, they declined to file charges against him and everything else, but you're going to suspend him for what basically turns into 3 years because he was suspended midway through last season.
Right. I don't
get it.
I think the Players Association has to jump in on this and figure it out. And speaking of figuring out, let's talk baseball and figure out what the Mets and the Yankees are going to do tonight in the Subway Series. And can I say something? I don't know about you, and I don't know about the gang out there. I could really, if these are the two teams in the World Series, I'm gonna watch. I'm gonna watch House Hunters International. I truly don't care if these are the. I don't like it when the Mets and the Yankees are in a World Series against each other. It's just something to me that Subway type series, these kind of things. It's like the White Sox and the Cubs. I'm sure you would watch it because you're a Cubs fan, but I'm just saying the Dodgers and the Angels. I truly no. To me, give me somebody else.
Haven't been a fan of interleague play other than the World Series to begin with. I don't like them playing in the regular season. I agree. I'm not a big fan of seeing these games because who cares who wins the Subway Series or who wins the Crosstown Classic or whatever they call the Dodgers and the Angels or the Rays and the Marlins or, insert other random teams here that nobody cares about when they play. I don't like interleague play for the simple reason that not every, you don't play the same teams. I've talked about this before. If it's a tight divisional race, and the Cubs have to play the White Sox 6 times or whatever it is, and the White Sox are good, and meanwhile the Cardinals get to beat up on the Royals 6 times. That can make the difference in who goes to the postseason.
100%.
I think these games should be in the playoffs when it actually is supposed to mean something. But with that said, no, I probably wouldn't be a fan. I get tired of hearing about the Yankees all the time. I get tired of hearing about the Mets all the time. And this one, it comes down to pitching. You've got Domingo Germán, who's made 1 start and got beat up, as the numbers show, 3 innings. Woo. And he gets faced Max Scherzer. And now Scherzer, of course, coming off that loss to San Diego last week where he lost to Yu Darvish in a game where I faded Yu Darvish because, hey, they were on the road. And he's terrible on the road. And, of course, I took Darvish today, and he's losing to the Tigers on the road.
Right.
But let's face it, both teams good offensively. We saw the Mets win 6-3 yesterday. Wiped out that 2-0 first inning deficit by scoring 4 in the bottom of the inning.
Right.
I just don't have faith in Germán. I know a lot of Yankees fans were saying that they hope Brian Cashman pulled the trigger on a deal with to get Luis Castillo or somebody so they didn't have to watch Germán get lit up tonight.
Right.
Hasn't happened as of yet. Could it happen? God, I hope not, because it'll mess up the next slide. That's called foreshadowing. But in the end, I think the Mets playing at Citi Field with a better pitcher on the mound should take care of business. I'm sure Tim Earl, if he was here, would be happy to see that the Mets were favored. Of course, I took them yesterday, too.
There you go.
Rachel thought that game would have ended up under the total, but it ended up over.
Right. So, in the foreshadowing, here we have the Cincinnati Reds and the Miami Marlins in a game that,
literally dozens of people are going to tune in and watch.
Yeah, I was going to say the families will be there, but other than that, we don't know what's going to happen. These are teams that have players. They're decent, but not enough of them.
Right. Well, I mean, the Reds' problem is they don't pitch.
Right.
They score a lot of runs, but they don't stop anybody else from scoring. Oh, and look, there's Tim. Good thing we changed the slide.
Hey, Tim. Good to see you, buddy.
But yeah, Braxton Garrett, he's pitched pretty well his last few outings there. He's still 2-3 with a 342 earned run average, but you look at his last 3, and he pitched well against the Pirates. And everybody can say, well, whoop-de-doo, it's the Pirates. He actually faced them twice, but he pitched decently against the Mets, ended up with a no decision in that start. So his last 3 starts, he's 1-0. His earned run average 204, and he struck out 21 guys over 17 2/3. His problem today is the same problem that the Marlins have all the time. They don't score enough runs. They scored 2 in the opener of this series. They lost 11-2. They scored 2 yesterday, and if it wasn't for Pablo Lopez, they wouldn't have won 2-1. And here they get to run into Luis Castillo. And, Castillo, we've talked about, along with Frankie Montas, probably the top 2 starting pitchers to be on the market at this point, because I don't know if Tyler Mahle is going to be dealt. But Castillo's last 3 starts, he's gone 7 innings in each. He's given up 1 run in each, struck out a total of 22 in those 21 innings of work. His start before that, he threw 6 scoreless and a win over the Cubs. So his last 28 innings, he's given up 3 runs. Or 27 innings, I should say. He's given up 3 runs and struck out 33 batters. The Marlins can't hit.
Right.
I mean, there's no good way to say that without hurting their feelings. But they can't hit to save their lives. And that's going to be a problem here because the Reds are a mediocre team overall offensively, but at home they average better than 5 runs a game.
One of these two pitchers could be pitching in Yankee pinstripes at the end of next week.
And if I had to guess, I would bank on Castillo. I think he's the more known commodity.
Mm-hmm.
I think Miami's putting out feelers that they would trade Pablo Lopez.
Right.
I don't know what they would want in return for him. I mean, they're not going to deal Alcantara.
No.
Which they shouldn't.
Right.
But, I mean, it's Miami. They do tend to get rid of guys when their contracts are coming up.
Mm-hmm. But there's definitely going to be some pitching, and there's some pitchers on these two teams that we're not even showing today, but that they could be headed on out because these two teams have pitching. They just don't seem to be able to get it at the right time. By the way, Tim, Chris was all over the Mets today, so I know that you're a Mets fan, and so he's on the Mets today. So let's go for 2 for the money, and let's see what we got there. And that's the Astros and Oakland, and the Reds, Marlins, Mets. There's the Mets again there, Tim.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Houston. Hopefully it's not going to bite me again like it bit me yesterday. I know that Montas pitched okay, but I mean, nobody expected the A's to put up a crooked number early in the game. Mm-hmm. How lucky is Oakland going to get? They're throwing Cole Irvin here. Irvin he hasn't been bad, but he throws a lot of junk. And I mean, we talked yesterday about a guy that throws like Eddie Harris, and that's basically what Irvin does. He's pitched well his last 4 starts. Including a game against Houston where he gave up 2 runs in 6 innings. Then he had another start where he got 1 run in 6 innings against Houston. He lost the first one, won the second one. So this is the 3rd time in 4 starts he's going to face the Astros. We talked about that the other day, Rachel and I did, with Odorizzi making his 3rd straight start against the A's, and the A's got to him. Christian Javier is going for Houston. If this kid could be more efficient and not try to strike out 37 guys when he faces 39 batters, it would be a lot better off. You look at his last start, and he fanned, or 2 starts ago, he got 11 outs. He struck out 10 of them. He threw 92 pitches in 3 2/3. He's got to be more effective. Fortunately, facing an A's team that tends to chase pitches might bail them out a little bit. I think Houston's the better team, and they should bounce back. We just talked about Castillo. We talked about how the Marlins don't hit.
Right.
You can get this at over 5.5 at minus 140 or so, but I think Castillo should be able to punch out enough Marlins to go over this total. Like we said, he struck out 33 over 27 innings in his last 4 starts. Mm-hmm. We just talked about the Reds and the Mets. I don't think we need to go any further into detail about those 2 teams. Uh-huh. But I think they're in good shape.
Let's go to 4. And 4 for 3. Whoops.
That's my fault.
Yeah, we hit it at the same time.
Yeah, and that's supposed to say Seattle over Texas. I just forgot to change that over. It's Marco Gonzalez going against John Gray. I know Gray has pitched well of late.
It's okay. They would have beat either one.
Yeah, but, the Mariners, Marco Gonzalez going there. They rallied last night to win 5-4. They've won the first 2 games of this set. They're trying to keep in the wild card race, and it's a crowded field over there in the AL. I mean, come on, the Orioles are above 500. Mm-hmm. So you got a lot of teams battling for those 3 spots. It's going to be interesting to see how things play out and see who makes deals here coming into the deadline. The Blue Jays, it's a big number. I get it. But like we talked about yesterday, the Cardinals don't have Nolan Arenado. They don't have Paul Goldschmidt. They're both back in St. Louis because they're not vaccinated. Yep. How did that work out for St. Louis yesterday? They got beat 10-3. Today it's Gausman versus Wainwright. Gausman's got better stuff than Berrios does. The Blue Jays should get another win. They played good ball since firing Charlie Montoyo. I don't want to say Montoyo was the problem. I know, Nathan. I just pointed that out, that the Mariners play the Rangers. It just didn't change over when I was changing the screen. And then I think a couple of minor underdogs. Cleveland against Boston. I tell you what, Jim, have you seen a team that's unraveled more in the last 4 or 5 weeks than the Red Sox?
No, I mean, that's just, they had a great week, and then all of a sudden, reality set in. And it's quite possible that Boston could finish last in this division.
Yeah, I'm going to take Quantrill over Eovaldi. Boston has just been, well, let's be honest, horrible.
And by the way, can I say that they should lose just because they wear those damn yellow shirts with the blue, Boston on it. Doesn't look like anything Boston. They're named the Red Sox. Why then would you have colors of blue and gold? That makes no sense. And there's my alternate uniform rant of the day.
Here's how bad Boston has been in the last 7 games. They've been outscored 76-19.
That's you sure that's not Boston College in football or what? That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, they lost the last 2 games before the All-Star break to the Yankees, 14-1 and 13-2. Then they lost Friday to Toronto in that narrow game of 28-5. Then they lost 4-1 and 8-4. Then they beat Cleveland 3-1, and then they lost last night 8-3.
Oy.
So you're being outscored 4-1 for every run you're putting on the board in the last week.
Right.
That's not going to get it done. That's why Boston currently is in the basement, half a game behind the Orioles at 49-49. And we talked about this yesterday. Reichel mentioned that the ownership group of the Red Sox is focused on trying to get an NBA team in Vegas. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, Fenway Partnership is a massive organization. I mean, they have a NASCAR team. They have with Roush Fenway, with in that they are heavily involved in the ownership of Dunkin' Donuts. I believe they own an English Premier League team. It's Liverpool, I believe. So yeah, I mean, they're looking all over the place, but that doesn't mean that they don't pay attention to baseball. Hein Bloom, who runs the show up there, definitely pays attention to baseball. But right now, it doesn't really matter what they're doing. They don't seem to be doing it well. Tim says he believes the Red Sox are 12-3. What is it, Timmy? 12-3 with the yellow jersey.
Yeah, I know Andrew had mentioned that yesterday, that they were 12-2, so 12-3 sounds right.
Yeah, Timmy, I don't disagree with the yellow. I just would rather, if you're going to do the yellow, put red on it. I mean, it's just the blue and the gold, and you're the Red Sox. It just doesn't make sense. It's not the yellow that bothers me as much as it's the blue and the yellow. But that's, what can I say?
Yeah, and then I'm going to take the Orioles over Tampa Bay. Tyler Wells has been one of those kids flying under the radar. Nobody ever talks about him because they're like, who the hell is Tyler Wells? And then they're like, oh, he pitches for Baltimore. Who cares?
Right.
Rasmussen, I know, has lost some velocity off his fastball from last season.
Right.
Could be overuse. Could be the fact that, he just doesn't have it this year. I mean, it's hard to say. But after watching the bullpen blow the game for McClanahan yesterday and watching Kluber lose on Monday,
right,
I can't have a ton of faith in Tampa Bay. Like I said, I backed McClanahan yesterday. He pitched well, 7 innings, gave up 2 runs. Right. And then the bullpen came in and gave up 3 in the 8th.
Yeah.
Some days you can't win.
They're banged up pretty bad. And they're going to
Kiermaier and Zunino are done for the year now.
Right, exactly. And by the way, Nathan, Chris is all over the Mets today. So there you go. And he's also on the Jays. So you guys are on the same wavelength in that routine. But yeah, Baltimore's playing. I'll be curious as to see if Baltimore, I don't know how much they can or what they can do in the way of, trading to better the team. maybe sometimes it's, you don't trade because you're like, okay, if we get a little crazy here, we could screw up what we've already built. But then again, you've got the Blue Jays, the Rays, and the Red Sox and the Yankees in the same division. So no matter what you do, it's not going to be enough. So it might get you to the playoffs, though.
It's true. I mean, they're hanging in there. I mean, where do they stand right now? It's going into this afternoon. They're a couple games behind.
Well, the couple games over 500.
Let's see, Baltimore 49 and 48. The last wild card spot currently held by Tampa Bay. They're 3 back.
Yeah.
So they've gained a couple games here. They've got, I think, one more tomorrow. Is it? It's a 4-game set.
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. I do know that obviously Baltimore plays.
Yeah, Tampa Bay's got undecided going against Jordan Lyles tomorrow.
Okay. I know that for sure that these that the Orioles and the Rays and the Orioles and everybody else in that division play each other quite a bit left in the season. So one way or another, they're going to just, they're either going to make it or they're going to decide who makes it. And just as an aside, Tampa Bay only lost in 19 games against Baltimore last season. They only lost once.
Yeah, which is making these back-to-back losses kind of damning, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but it also proves that, the Orioles are a much better team than they were last season because Tampa Bay, even though they're banged up, it still isn't a bad team.
True.
So, everybody beat up on the Orioles last year, which made it good for the Yankees, the Red Sox, and the Rays. But this year, Baltimore's punching back, and that's a problem for them. Good if you're a Baltimore fan, it's great.
Yeah, that's true.
So here we go.
Maybe there'll be a few extra fans on the bandwagon.
There you go. And this is everything you always wanted, folks, and more.
Yep. I'm going to go with Jose Ramirez over the 1.5 total base mark again. Anytime you get plus money with a guy that's hitting 300, you take it. Same with Freddie Freeman. Facing Corbin, he's got a lot of experience facing him for playing his career in Atlanta.
Sure.
Corey Seager, he heated up after that miserable start to the year. People were like, well, why did Texas pay him and Marcus Semien a whole bunch of money? Mm-hmm. Well, now you know why they paid him a whole bunch of money.
Right.
Because he's up over, he's up to 23 or so homers. Yeah. He's driven in 53 runs. He's playing decent defense. They're still hanging around. I mean, they're on the fringes at best of the wild card race, being 8.5 back. But, right. You get a hot streak, you put together a few wins. They're still outscoring the opponents this season
right.
by 5 runs, despite being 10 games under 500, which is weird when you get right down to it.
Mm-hmm.
So what do we got here? Yeah, the polar bear. Right. He should have a good night tonight. Everybody else should too, because as Herman, you have to wonder how long he'll stick around. I'm hoping Herman will stick around long enough to go over the 4.5 strikeout mark since it was at plus 128.
Right.
But he could get that in 2 innings and still get pulled after they're down 5-1 or whatever. Mm-hmm. Bogart's over 1.5 total bases. It's who is pitching for Cleveland in that one? It's Quantrill.
Yeah.
Quantrill and Eovaldi. Boston has to get somebody to hit the ball. Martinez has struggled. Devers is hurt. Story is hurt. Nobody wants to talk about Jackie Bradley Jr. and wonder how he still has a job.
Right.
So I'm going to rely on Bogart. He's another guy that hits for average, and he's got some pop in the bat.
Sure.
Vlad Guerrero, we said the Blue Jays are hot. They're facing Wainwright and a thinned out St. Louis lineup. Plenty of opportunities for him. Let's pick somebody to win game.
Real quick, I have a question for you, for Tim. If Tim Earle's still out there, Nathan, the class. If you're old enough to remember Vlad Guerrero Sr., other than Roberto Clemente, was there ever a better bad ball hitter than Vlad Guerrero?
I would have said Tony Oliva, but he just drew a lot of walks. Probably not.
Clemente Clemente was a fantastic bad ball hitter, but you could throw Vlad one on the ground and he'd figure out a way to hit it. I mean, I saw him.
I've read a couple of times where they threw one that bounced and he hit it like it was a cricket pitch.
Right. Yeah. He was part of it. He ran to first base and then ran back to home. Thinking it was a cricket match, but no, I didn't want to disrupt the flow there. But when you see Vlad Guerrero Jr., he's a much more disciplined hitter than his father was. But his father,
Tim said he couldn't think of anybody either.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. Guerrero was a bad ball hitter.
Mm-hmm. He was a good ball hitter too, but he could hit the bad ball.
True. I mean, but for as decent of a power hitter as he was, he didn't strike out as much as these guys do now.
No.
His career high in strikeouts in a season was 95.
Mm-hmm.
Guys like Joey Gallo racked that up in a couple of months.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of Gallo, let's see, what's his strikeout total at? Has he cracked triple digits yet? Well, he might not. He might not have had enough at bats. Nope, 103 strikeouts and 230 official at bats.
There you go.
How this guy gets paid 8 figures for a guy whose career batting average is 201 and hasn't hit better than 223 in the last 5 years is beyond me. I mean, you look at his numbers. Now, we were just talking about Vlad Guerrero, who struck out in his career 985 times in 9,059 plate appearances while hitting 449 homers.
Mm-hmm.
Then you look at Gallo, who has struck out 988 times in 2,671 plate appearances.
7,000 bats less.
And he's already struck out 3 more times. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, you look at Gallo, sure, he's got power, but he's also generates a lot of wind energy.
Mm-hmm.
You look at his strikeout totals: 196 in 2017, 207 in 2018, 114 in 2019, and he only played 70 games. 213 last season, led the majors.
Wow!
While hitting a $199, and he hit 160 after coming over to the Yankees. So in 138 games with New York, you're looking at what he's done, and he's hit a $160 in 138 games, 418 official at bats, 191 strikeouts, and 25 homers.
He's hitting just a little bit better than the bat boy.
Yeah, I mean, there's starting pitchers that hit better than that.
Well, Scherzer could hit better than that. I think Scherzer.
And Carlos Zambrano and Mike Hampton, they used to hit for power, but they had decent averages. But $160, and you're paying this guy $10+ million a year.
Tim says he still loves
to be poor.
To put him in the game last night to face Diaz. Look, nobody says that Gallo can't, situationally hit, because he does do that occasionally. But, is he worth the amount of money they're paying him? No. But the Yankees are one of those great teams that can paper over that. They don't care.
Well, Tim pointed that out because he fanned against Diaz in the 8th inning.
Right. Well, Tim's a Mets fan, so he's more than happy to get Gallo in the game.
Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, Gallo's one of those guys where I wonder if he would strike out playing T-ball.
He might. You never know. So the Diamondbacks and the Giants, huh?
Yeah, I have to go against the Giants. They've lost 6 straight coming out of the All-Star break. They got swept by the Dodgers. They lost yesterday in a game where I thought Carlos Rodon was going to break them out of that slump. They got Logan Webb going today, which is a plus for the Giants until you realize they're on the road. They're not in Oracle Park.
Right.
Zach Gallen going for Arizona. I just think that the Diamondbacks, they seem to have the Giants number, and the Giants are reeling right now.
Yep.
I look for Javier to go over 7.5 strikeouts. Oakland is a free swinging lineup that will swing at anything. You could probably try to throw a pitch out and they'd swing at it. We talked about Herman and Archer. This game already started because I forgot it was a 2:10 start. I don't think he'll stick around long enough to strike out 3.5, even against a team like Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
Corbin Burns going for the Brew Crew. Archer in trouble already. He's given up 3 in the first. He's thrown 25 pitches to get through that first inning, 3 runs on 3 hits and a walk. He also gave up a 3-run shot with nobody out to Rowdy Tellez. So the first 4 guys reached, and then he managed to get out of it by getting Renfroe, and then got Colton Wong to bounce into a double play. But they're down 3-1. Corbin Burns going for the Brewers. Could be a rough night for the Twins. And at Citizens Bank Park, and what was a scoreless game going into the 5th, it's now 7-2 after 6 in favor of the Phillies. Charlie Morton struggled in the 5th, gave up a 5 spot, and then he got yanked. Tyler Matzik gave up 2 in the 6th. Kyle Gibson in line for the win if that score holds up. And, of course, right after I said Burns had Minnesota on the ropes, he just gave up another hit to make it 3-2. So, of course, it's not going to be a low-scoring game in Milwaukee, because why would it?
Right. Why would they help you out?
And Yu Darvish got some run support in the 4th. Padres 2, Tigers 1, bottom of 4 at Comerica Park. Tariq Skubal going against Darvish. And in the game everybody is talking about, I'm sure there are literally 3 or 4 people that are thrilled about this game.
Family and friends.
It's the Angels and Royals tied at 0 after 2. Brad Keller going for the Royals against the appropriately named Jansen Junk for the Angels.
Bum. Hey, by the way, folks.
Sadly, Junk has fanned 4 in 2 innings.
Picks and Parlays Power Hours coming up at 3 o'clock. Now, if you haven't seen it, because it's a new show, we definitely want you to know that it's a lot of fun. Tim Earle's on it. Our buddy Lenny's on it. Allie Burns. A lot of your friends and our friends are on it today because it's Wednesday. Here's what you can look for. Lenny's going to host it. Craig's going to talk some Super Bowl odds and predictions. Lee's going to talk about the Detroit Lions, over and under on the win total. And Dan's got the Indianapolis Colts. Tomorrow.
And we have no idea who Lee and Dan are, so.
Well, tune in and see.
Maybe Tim knows who they are.
Yeah, then Nick Earle, the brother of the aforementioned Tim Earle, will be hosting tomorrow, and he's got Allie's going to be hosting. I'm sorry, and Nick will have the Jets over and under. That's something that you have to tune in for, because who really cares? But the Chargers, I do care about. The Chargers definitely over under, and so that's what's coming up on that show. They're coming up at 3. And then Friday, when Lenny's back, Lenny will have Scott coming in talking about the New York Giants. Over under. And
do we know what Scott that is? Because Reichel didn't know.
That's a good question. It's I think it is Reichel. But and then Chip has got San Francisco 49ers over and under, and that's what's coming up on the Power Hour this week. We definitely want you to do that. Now, don't forget we got other shows too, and as we said before, you got the Power Hour. Then comes Sean Miller at 4 o'clock with World Soccer Betting Genius, which he is, from 4 to 5. And then Game Time Decision with Tim, Nick, Lenny, and the gang. So we got all kinds of great stuff coming up right here on the Max Wagers Network. Don't go anywhere because, folks, we got a lot of fun having you here. Now, we beg you to do something for us, and that is we want you to hit the like button, because we're likable human beings. Please hit the like button, and then of course ring that bell and subscribe. So do those 3 things for us. It doesn't take you but a second. Like button, subscribe, hit the bell. And if you've got some comments that you want to make after the show's over, or if you see the show or you miss the show and you want to come back and look at it and drop us some comments, put the comments in there. We'll answer some questions from those comments. All you have to do is put them in there, okay?
And James, tomorrow, it's supposed to be, I think, Tyler Alexander going for Detroit against Manoah. I'll be backing Manoah pretty much all the way. I have no faith in Detroit's lineup against right-handed pitching. If Manoah was a lefty, then it might be a little bit different, because the Tigers can can hit lefties, they struggle badly against right-handers. And that game will be north of the border as well. Make sure you keep an eye out to see if the Tigers have anybody that is going to end up on the restricted list. Mm-hmm. So you don't end up like the Cardinals or the Royals minor league team last week.
Also, when you get ready to make your bets on the weekend, I know we're a little early because it's Wednesday, but remembering that Tuesday is the trade deadline. There's going to probably be some early action in the trade section on the weekends. Okay. I'm going to suggest to you a website. It's called Major League Baseball Trade Rumors. They are the best at following trades. Okay. Nobody does it better than they do. It's just, you can Google it or you can just type it into your bar. It's, Major League Baseball Trade Rumors or MLB Trade Rumors. It's the best place to follow what's going on in the trades because, games, obviously, how you bet on these games. And I know, Chris, you know this and watch that very closely because you'll look in the dugout and suddenly guys who were supposed to be in the lineup aren't in the lineup. And you're wondering, are they hurt or are they, waiting to pack their bags or what the heck is going on? So it usually starts to get crazy a few days before the trade deadline. And so that's going to make this weekend's game some really fascinating baseball over the weekend. So keep a lookout for that and check out the MLB Trade Rumors because they really do a good job of following all that fun stuff.
Yeah, that's true. And who knows who could end up somewhere else in the next few days as we head into that trade deadline. A lot of names being bandied about. The one thing is Artie Moreno probably won't deal Ohtani, even though he probably should because the Angels are going nowhere. But he has no faith in his front office. But can you blame him?
No. And trading Ohtani would be tough, but I don't know that. I mean, he's happy in Anaheim, but would he be happier someplace else? I don't know.
Playing for a contender?
Playing for a contender, playing like 35 miles up the street, up the interstate in
over Chavez Ravine.
Yeah, over Chavez Ravine. I think he might. That might be a trip that he'd be willing to take. So we'll see. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who goes and who stays. And it's going to start this weekend, so just keep an eye out for it. Any final questions before we get out of here? Anything from the class? You see anything there, Chris?
No, Tim said you should 100% trade Ohtani, but like I said, Artie Moreno has no faith in his front office. He also said not to the National League unless they're going to trade him to the Mets. I don't see that happening either.
No.
It's going to be interesting to see what some of these teams do. The Cardinals, they're a team that have been linked to Soto as well, but they need pitching more than anything right now. You're looking at, Jack Flaherty's on the IL. Matz is done for the year. Dakota Hudson is hurt.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see what John Mozeliak does too.
There's a lot of moving parts there, and we'll see how that works out. But yeah, it's going to be Ohtani. Could they get a king's ransom for him? Yes. What would they do with him? As Chris said, unless you change your general manager's position there, you got problems. Because Artie spent money. Nobody can say Artie didn't spend money.
That's true. No one's going to say Artie cheaped out.
No. And by the way, just for the record, because it's just something entertaining and interesting, the Dodgers always have the attendance record. Okay, they have the largest stadium in baseball. It's also the third oldest stadium in baseball. But the Dodgers are number one in attendance. But year in and year out, win and not win, the Angels draw over 3 million, into Anaheim. So down in Orange County, they do very well. So it's not like people don't come to see the Angels play. It's not like Artie Moreno doesn't spend money. It's just they don't perform for him. And that's he went out and got Rendon, like we said before, for $275 million. At the time, it sounded like a great deal because Anthony had just come off the World Series. But Anthony hasn't been healthy. Trout hasn't been healthy. And Ohtani has been healthy, but doesn't have anybody help him out. So
That's true.
What's a mother to do, right? All right, boys and girls. I'm in for Scott. I might be in for Scott tomorrow. We'll find out. But if not, I will see you down the line. Chris is going to see you tomorrow. So there you go. And everybody jump over at 3 o'clock. Remember, Picks and Parlays Power Hour. Going to have some fun today, and definitely check them out. They definitely are a fun new show and something that you're going to want to see. So check them out. Picks and Parlays Power Hour coming up at 3 o'clock. Sean Miller at 4, and of course at 5, Game Time Decision with Nick, Tim, and who else? Lenny, who is on every show that we have. But anyway.
Except we never see him here because, he's busy doing other stuff.
He is actually busy in that hour between the two shows these other guys got. But anyway, guys, have a great day. Chris, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I think we got everything pretty much covered when you get right down to it. Should be an interesting evening for sure. Take note of it's a lighter schedule because there's 4 games that start within the next 45 to 50 minutes. And there's only 5 games on tonight. So if you're going to get some hits in, get them in early.
There you go, buddy. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Have a good day, and we will see you tomorrow. Don't forget to like, hit the bell, and subscribe, okay? All right, until tomorrow. For Jim Williams, I am Jim Williams. For Chris King, I'm Jim Williams. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.